Hey listeners, Scott here with a little expose on a listener and a big-time fan of the show, and also, honestly, he's been helping me with a lot of cool stuff with the GPW and Jeeps and just life in general. A super great guy, really cool, and he is in one of the panaceas of wheeling, and we're going to have him on regularly as a contributor to the show because he is a wealth of knowledge, and a lot of times, to be honest with you, when you guys ask me questions, I just forward his answers because he's experienced half the stuff you guys are going through. George, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad, and I don't think I live up to about 10% of that hype, but I appreciate it.
Shh, don't ruin the magic. This is podcasting, you know. Come on, I got to bust out all the fanfare and the air horns and confetti and fireworks and all the other crud that wake my neighbors. But anyways,
so I built my first Jeep with just sheet metal and grit and determination and welding.
Right.
You know. So that's the credentials, I guess.
There you go. Well, we were just chatting here, as we always do, try and get people used to talking on the microphones and recording and stuff like that. But, you know, as we're halfway through this, he made the comment, we need to record this. I'm like, yeah, we do. Let's just jump right in. So we were talking about, like, our past and first Jeeps and all that stuff. And he started he went into this really cool, like, we just got to the name. And he said, you know what? That's when we should record this. So I'll let you pick up where we left off. So tell us a little bit about Dudley.
Okay, so Dudley was a Franken Jeep, and so it was. I bought it as it was, didn't know anything about it. It was titled as a 56 or I forget, something like that, 54 or 56 Willys.
Yeah,
and it was nothing about it. It was a 79 Wagoneer underneath, engine,
right.
Transmission, transfer case, right?
Uh-huh.
And axles, and it was I want to say it was and I should have pulled the specs up on it, but it was like a mid-80s YJ tub. Okay. And then somebody slapped a 76 CJ front clip on it and somehow, you know, gave somebody like $30 at the title or something. I don't know.
Right.
But they ended up getting it titled as this ancient Willys so they could do anything with the power plant and stuff and be legal.
I picture in my head, you know, Johnny Cash, one piece at a time when you're telling the story.
It was. Yes, exactly. It was one piece at a time, entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually came up every time they would look at the Jeep. Well, what is it? Well, you know, the Johnny Cash song. That's literally the first thing I'd say every time.
Let me tell you what it's not. It's a short list.
Let me show you the title. This is what it's not.
Yeah.
So anyway, picked it up from a friend of mine who's a tenor, but I don't hold that against him, or that he sold me that Jeep, because it opened up a whole bunch of avenues.
It was a gateway.
It was the gateway drug, right? Yeah. And it looked cool. Yeah. But as soon as, you know, you get it on the trail and the Bondo starts popping out, you go, oh, look at that. That's great. So anyway, this thing, it had an AMC 360 in it and a turbo 350 transmission as the Wagoneer had.
Okay.
And I fought with that thing. It had I'll leave the brand name of the TBI injection out because they don't deserve it. I'm sure it was a one-off problem.
Oh, I know their brand's called Satan.
Yeah. I just got a dud, and so at the end of its like 3 years with me that I'd been mechanicking on it nonstop. It's like every time we went wheeling, I broke something. I'd come back Sunday afternoon, was fix the Jeep,
right,
and then go back Saturday, go wheeling, break something, fix it Sunday. You know,
it sounds familiar.
It came back under its own power, but most of the time, I ended up getting dragged or waiting for it to stop vapor locking and that kind of stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I ended up fighting with TBI and with throttle body injection. So it's supposed to be the step up from carburation. You can go up steeper inclines and stuff like that. You don't have the float bouncing around on you and giving you trouble.
Right.
And what was funny, though, with Dudley is that you run it for about 20 minutes and you better find a place to park because it's shutting down. And the reason...
Power plant has left the track.
Yeah. the weird thing is you could drive, if you drove like 60, 65 miles an hour and went up to the trail, then it would get to the trail before it finally vapor lock and die and start doing its stupid stuff.
Right.
If you wanted to drive 20 minutes from one town into the next one to stop and grab, the sandwich, it's like it would die in the middle of Main Street, and you're sitting there like, oh, I need to keep the momentum up, and oh, that light's turning, but I'm gonna just careen into everybody because I need to get through this intersection,
Out of the way.
Yeah, and so what it was doing, it was shutting off the fuel injectors.
Right.
It's like as if in its map, it had a 0 fuel setting, which is insane. It's got to have something to run.
Yeah.
But it was just shutting down the fuel injectors, and it's like, so after much messing with it, tweak this, tweak that, try this, try that. Oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. All over the boards, troubleshooting like crazy. What was funny is when I was first fighting the stupid thing, I started looking things up. Like, okay, I look up the brand name of the TBI,
right?
And I'm searching for this thing on Google, right? And I went, okay, and I'm looking, and so then I started to get a little bit more specific. And it wasn't that I was looking for my Jeep, but I found my Jeep on the internet. The guy that not the guy that built it from the ground up with the all the stuff that was in it, but the guy that did all the recent upgrades with the TBI and that kind of stuff. He was installing it, and he was doing a pictorial on how he put everything together. It was funny because I'm scrolling through and I'm like, okay, this guy seems to know his stuff. Yeah, okay, cool. I can get some good information on this, try to figure out how to troubleshoot this Jeep. And then I start seeing pictures, and I'm like, well, that's weird. That looks just like under my hood. It's like, hey, his 1/4-inch all thread that goes into his air cleaner is bent in a perfect offset, just like mine. Now, that must be a factory thing. I don't know.
Right.
And then, but then I turned, scroll down a little bit more, and all of a sudden there's my speakers that are in the middle of the console right there. I'm like, dude, that's my Jeep. What the? And so then but I was like, the dash is wrong. Then I keep scrolling. I was like, here's the custom dash I had built from Double D, whatever, out in Pennsylvania. I was like, and it was like the only Jeep on the planet that said the Green Machine, the Green Machine, or no, the Green Man. That's what it was. It's the Green Man on the dash.
Nice.
And and I was like, that's it. And for reference, the Green Man is like the weird, like pagan thing you see on fences and stuff, growing in the middle of vines and stuff.
For those who are into type O negative, Peter Steele was also known as the Green Man.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
metal reference for you.
So anyway, it was just great. And it was funny because I actually, found the guy. I'm a pretty decent stalker, you might be aware.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Don't worry about the inside joke.
Exactly. Yeah. Moving on. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. But anyway, so I find the guy, and I get a hold of him. I'm like, hey, tell me about what is this thing? Because I know it's not a 56 Willys or whatever.
Yeah.
And he ran me through the whole thing. He knew the background, where the guy I bought it from didn't know anything about it.
Gotcha.
And but he was actually a good resource for a bit. Trying to get caught up on. At least now I can find parts, because I'm still trying to figure out what things are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I fought, and that poor engine was wore out, and I still tried to drive it like a race car. It was fun.
Oh yeah, but back then when we were first Jeeps, we did that. Like with my YJ that was blowing, had black lung disease. It was pouring more oil into the air cleaner than it was in the engine. And, I still drove that thing like I stole it. And, I remember the blow-by was so bad. I was literally killing every mosquito between Tampa and Holiday where I lived. And I pull up next to a light, and this dude, at the time, this was, 2004, pulls up in a brand new, LJ. And he's like, oh, man, I've been following you for a mile. And I wonder what was smoking. I thought someone put diesel in a gas car, I'm like, yeah, I know. The engine's blown. I'm sorry. He goes, no, man, you're gonna fix that, right? I said, yeah. And of course, everyone who knows the show history, a year later, I get a motor because it's got to be. But I did put the motor in right away, though. In my defense, back then I wasn't as bad as I am now. But no, it's just funny, again, I was using 3 cans of V8 engine restore, every oil change, just to get compression. Because again, I didn't know any better. That was my first Jeep that I did myself, cradle to grave. And like you said, that worn out, V8 motor, you still drove it like a race car. The funniest thing ever is when I put the new motor in and it got past that break-in period, And I remember giving it the beans and going up an on-ramp, and it was moving, and it was moving under its own power. And I'm like, man, this thing has to be re-geared, because I thought about putting factory tires back on it, because I thought it was just, dog leg geared or whatever it was. And that's when I found out I had 488 gears. Well, I was actually moving. I couldn't get up onto an overpass with factory tires and 488 gears. That motor was so bad.
Right.
But I still loved it every day. I had a smile on my face.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that one reminds me of my first car, which was a 76 Buick. And just like you said, black lung,
yeah.
I mean, all the blow-by up into the air cleaner.
You didn't change oil. You just pressure wash the engine and add more.
Right. Well, and that's the funny thing is, my dad would use the car most of the time I was 16, right?
Yeah.
And so my friend and I decided it would be a good idea one night to, hey, our good friend from 5th grade, he lives up in Dillon, Colorado, which is only like a 2.5 hour drive from here.
Right.
We got our driver's licenses. We're legal. We can do this.
Yeah.
I bet we can make it up there and say hi and then come back. So I go booking down the interstate, and I didn't check the oil because it's like, well, I mean, Dad's been driving it. He keeps up with that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I go booking, and I get to the top, to the Eisenhower Tunnel, I think pretty much. And all of a sudden the oil light comes on. I'm like, I've never seen the oil light come on in this car. Uh-oh. So I pull off, and it's like, it's got nothing in it. It's gone. It's all gone.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh, okay. So we coast from the tunnel down.
It was a hybrid. Went up with gas, down with gravity.
If you've been on I-70, I don't know if you have, but
no.
It's steep.
Right.
So pretty much you can start, if you get rolling, you will go 60 miles an hour with no power and get to town.
Like I said, the first hybrid.
Yep. And so, so that probably there informed the idiotic tenacity of trying to make Dudley into something it was never going to be. And for anybody who's not bought that Jeep yet, I'm not going to tell you where I live, but it's still for sale. The dealer I traded it into. But it's rolling on like 10 pounds of oil pressure when it's warmed up, and it's just it's about done. It's a rebuild.
It's so funny when you talk about it, because we talk about the Jeeps and all that, but harken back to my old high school days. As a friend of mine, he put an engine in his Diplomat, I think it was. And he, young kid, just did it with hand tools and did it in his driveway. The guy he bought the car from, the car was wrecked, so he bought the boat and put it in $600, And, he finally got on the road, no exhaust manifold gaskets, because he didn't have the money for it. And the car was loud. And so we, again, down here in Florida, we drove from the Clearwater area down to Sarasota and over the Skyway Bridge. Okay. And, again, we were 17 years old. We're in high school. And we drove over that bridge, went all the way around Tampa Bay. I mean, it was a 300-mile trip. We all of us just having a good time, listening to the radio, out at night, just being kids. I look back at that now going, we didn't have a spare tire. We didn't have cell phones. We had no money. We barely had gas in that car. I would not trust that car to go to the Winn-Dixie, which is within walking distance of my house right now. But yet, that freedom, that just getting out there and having fun, that just scares me. That just really, I think back now and go, that could have ended up so bad.
Yeah, and I think about the fact that I got a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 7-year-old coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up, you know, and so it's just a matter of time before they start doing the stupid stuff that we used to do. And that's not terrifying at all.
No, well, times are a little different now. At least they got cell phones now.
Yeah. Well, these days, it amazes me that kids don't care about getting their driver's license.
Yeah.
But you see 20-year-olds without them. It's like, I don't fathom.
Yeah.
But coming back around to Jeeps and stuff, I mean, basically, with my background, blue collar, never went to college or anything like that. If it broke, you have to fix it. And so whether there's the old Buick or, I'd upgrade throughout the years. I had one of my upgrades was a 1985 S10 Blazer.
Right.
Upgrade very loosely, right? The body was pretty good, but the engine was about as bad as that old Buick, right?
Right.
And so one day I'm driving it into town, and I'm living about 15 miles out of town, and I'm in the middle of no cell service on a dirt road, and I hear kabang. pop the hood. Yeah, I can. There's a window on the side of the block. That's great. So, so the 2.8 left the chat.
Oh, well, the 2.8. Yeah, they left the chat just sitting still, not running.
Yeah, exactly. And so, as it so happens, the bad mistake that I made in high school started to come in handy again. So, after driving this 72 Chevy pickup that had two-wheel drive and trying to go four-wheeling with it, it wasn't working out. My brother-in-law came across this 74 Chevy pickup, four-wheel drive. Looked great. Looked fantastic. I was like, oh, yeah, I got to get this so I can keep up with the guys on the trail and all this. And so I buy this truck, and the engine is shot. I mean, it's not got blow-by much.
Right. But tired.
But it's got no power at all, you know. Yeah. And so, okay, whatever. So finally I get fed up with it. I'm like, okay, how much is a crate engine? And, you know, not to show age or anything, but back then in 1997 or so,
106, 73, 53.
Yeah, it was like just under $2,000 for a good long block crate engine. So like, okay, let's get it coming. So I threw a new 350 in it, and it perked it up a little bit.
Right.
A little bit. The stupid thing was full-time four-wheel drive. I adopted, you know, got rid of that, went part-time and all that. Went through all this stuff, and it was just always a dog, and it would always get like 8 miles to the gallon. And then once I moved 15 miles out of town, you know, making very little as a beginning electrician, then I couldn't drive it. So it's like, okay, the S10 Blazer, it's small and light. It'll get better gas. Not really.
Yeah.
You know, But, so it's sitting there with a brand new crate engine in it, not moving. And I'm like, well, the S10 Blazer is so light, right? Compared to that big full-size Chevy pickup. I'm sure this will be great. And as it turns out, somebody makes a book. There was a book back then called Jags That Run. And he did an edition on putting a 350 in an S10 Blazer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so I was like, I could do this. So drag the carcass over to my friend's house, take over his garage for like 3 months, get out the shop hammer, start pounding firewall, get the thing shoehorned in there, fire it up. It's got no exhaust. Drive it into town. Talk about loud. So I pull it up to Ken's muffler. He's like, all right, all I want is pipes and a glass back. He's like, that's an 85 S10 Blazer. I'm like, oh, no, it's not. It's a 74. No, dude, it's an 85 S10 Blazer. You got to have cats on it. Well, I don't want catalytic converters. You got to. Well, I tell you what, the guy in the back, he'll take it to his house and he'll do it for you. Go talk to him.
Right. No,
so I drive this thing like an hour down to his house and drop it off with no mufflers.
Yeah, I was going to say, so how was the inside cabin temperature and the smell? You get out smelling like a junkyard, like, oh, that smell.
Kind of, yeah. Carbureted and everything, yeah. So he gets the glass packs on, and I, not knowing anything at that age, did turn downs right behind the rear axle. So now I'm sitting at stoplights, and all those fumes are coming right up into the cab because I didn't clear the cab with it. Now, I hired a professional to install that exhaust. You think he'd say something? Oh, no, you want it like that? No problem, buddy. I'll give you whatever you asked for. Oh, man.
What did we learn?
Right? So, the S10 Blazer was sold shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Gas mileage was still 10 miles to the gallon. The S10's practically the same weight as.
Well, then you have the fun factor because you think it's lighter and you're just hammered down the whole time.
Oh, yeah. But that thing was awesome in the snow. I mean, the four-wheel drive worked great and everything, but holy mackerel. But that was informative. And then I gave up on everything for like years. And then that green Jeep came along, the Franken Jeep, Dudley. And that was a gateway. Then we found a really good deal on a 2010 JK. This was in 2018. So it wasn't that old. It had 70 or 80,000 miles on it.
Right.
And we picked it up for like $18,000, which at the time, it was. Yeah. They were going for 23, 24, and I picked it up for 18. So pretty good.
You got a deal.
Yeah. And so, but then it's too nice. You know, oh, well, we can't do anything with this. So the green Jeep got a lot of use, and pretty much the red Jeep would follow along whenever the wife wanted to come. That's the daily driver.
Yeah.
But finally, a couple 3 years ago, I finally got sick of that stupid thing, leaving me walking like usual or broken.
Right.
And traded it for a 2005 LJ.
Nice.
Ish.
Well, again, it's cheap.
Yeah. I mean, what's weird is, for those that aren't in the know, between 2004 and 2006, they used this very specific flex plate reluctor wheel crankshaft sensor setup. And would you believe that my crank had like, I don't know, a 1/4 inch of end play?
Right.
It's supposed to be like 6,000s.
Yeah.
So
bum bum bum.
So what I find is you hit the gas in reverse and the engine dies because the fuel's been shut off, because the crank sensor is not seeing the flex plate anymore.
Because everything moved a 1/2 inch that way.
Everything moved a 1/4 inch back. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it took forever to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying all kinds of different stuff. And Kevin had mentioned getting a really fancy scan tool. There's like a, what was it, Snap-on something or other?
Yeah, that's his side of the fence. I'm just the guy that grabs the parts off the shelf. I don't know.
But I swear, I was like, there for a bit, I was like, I need to just ask Kevin if he'd ship that thing to me, let me play with it for like a day, and I ship it back.
Right.
Because I was having fits trying to get the cam and crank and everything talking.
Right.
But finally figured out one day, I crawled up underneath there and I looked up and I like pried on the crank with the pry bar, and it shifted way back. I was like, wait a second, that's not supposed to be, you know? So I got to looking at it. I realized when my dad was trying to crank it and start the engine, the whole thing was shifting back and forth. I could finally see it. So yeah, turns out they only made that flex plate for like 3 years, and there's not really an aftermarket for it.
Yeah.
If you break the one you got, you're in trouble.
Yeah. That's like with me and the flywheel. The flywheel I have on mine technically is one use. Now, bear in mind, here's a problem. In the LJs, they only made 7,500 6-speeds. But, you know, and the problem we're running into, again, they also made TJ was the same, so it helps, but not by much, you know, because, again, a lot of them, the parts for that window of year, like you said, that 3 years is getting, because they went from the NV 3500 or 3550, I think, in 2004, and then they went, they used the NSG 370, 2004, 2005, and 2006, and the TJs. And they are only 3 years. And again, they use that same NSG 370 in the JKs, but again, that's a 3.8 motor. So like you said, those parts are getting harder and harder to find. And it's like, that's why a lot of guys now just LS swap it. And I'm like, I love the idea, but I like the idea I can go to a parts store for the most part. And again, that more and more the subject is not being so. I said, well, I can go get a part for it. And it's not getting that way anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing that I've gained a profound respect for is, you know, you can modify your stuff. The Jeeps are Tinker Toys. They're the AR-15 of the vehicle world. You can do anything with them, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's something to be said for keeping it stock to a large extent, because you can figure out what the parts are. The next guy can kind of guess and see what the parts are. You know, I got a build sheet for my Jeep. It is moderately accurate, aside from things that have cost me hundreds of dollars of shipping back and forth because I didn't realize things had changed.
Right.
Okay, let's have a talk about what's that, carrier? The carrier brake. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another topic for another day. But
yeah. I remember you sending me email or pictures of that. And I'm like, he finally got it. Oh, he finally got it. Oh.
Yeah,
I felt so bad for you, man.
Yeah, 6 lockers trying to figure out, I've got 488 gears in this. The build sheet's wrong. Oh, somebody upgraded, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Well, that's why I'm kind of wondering about my LJ, because, again, it's supposed to have 410 gears. Well, again, the Rubicon, the problem is, though, I have 33s. And 6th gear at 65 miles an hour, I'm almost at $3,000.
Oh.
Now, 33s with 410s should be at 2,600 RPM. So I'm thinking I'm got like 488 or something else difference in there. Because, again, the guy that had the Jeep before me, the original owner, he bought the LJ and I guess he had a credit card for Quadratec, because I have a Quadratec winch. I have a everything was bought in one time and slapped on the Jeep at one time. It was all Quadratec. So I'm wondering if they didn't go ahead and redo the gears and all that one time. But again, like you say, there's multitudes of sins you have to work through. Like it was great, but it was extremely neglected. And the guy didn't pass a cigarette or smoke shop that he never stopped at. When you're doing the evaporator case and you find like brand new like cigarettes that fell behind the dashboard, it's like, what? And when I got in the thing, I'm like, this thing smells like an ashtray. And then like Kevin and I still, it's in his shed. We have not taken that air cleaner box. I just bought a whole new. I got a salvage yard one. I lucked out. It was brand new inside. I got a whole new air box and everything because I knew that thing smelled like an ashtray. I had the air vent and like kissing Ethel, my Aunt Ethel. It smells like gin and cigarettes.
All you need is the little black, the little Christmas trees. You just hang them on the rear view. Everything's fine.
No. Even then, we just go, yay, babe, climb out the window. So the LJ you have, what else you got in the stables?
Okay, so let's see. I've got a 56 CJ3B.
Nice.
That is the high hood version of that era. And basically, I tried to keep it stock. And that's kind of what taught me the lesson about, okay, slow down on changing everything because sometimes, the factory stuff's actually pretty good. Think about it before you make a solid decision like that.
Right.
And so now to be fair, it is on its fourth engine. I've lost count. I don't know. 3, I think. And
how long have you had it?
When 2 years, 3 years.
That's a lot of engines in time.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't running when I bought it.
Okay.
And it was another one of the, for some reason, I like to pile about a half an inch of Bondo on a vehicle for no apparent reason. So
come see the GPW. The hood weighs 149 tons.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I tore it down to the frame and hadn't started it. Didn't know if it would run or. Well, actually, I take that back. We did do a Frankenstein thing where we pumped fuel at a Dudley over into Clyde. It was basically Bonnie and Clyde were the old Jeeps, the 56s.
Right.
So I'm pumping out of the green Jeep fuel and also electricity. And fortunately, it was 12 volt. Didn't know or not. So we just pumped 12 volt into it to see if it lights on fire. And
stop, drop, roll.
Steps.
Exactly. Learning curve.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we did do a transfusion and got Clyde running just enough to know that it ran. And it actually started and ran really well.
Right.
And there was no indication like look at the oil gauge or anything like that. Oh, yay, it runs. We shut it off and I tear it down, to the frame and start over. Sandblasted the frame. I lost the receipts, did a full rebuild, but might have just sandblasted it and then, did the self-etching primer and Rust-Oleum because I'm cheap and stupid. But mostly because I wanted this old 56 to be on the trail. I didn't want to just car show Jeep. I wanted to use it
as intended. Yeah.
And so then I get to start it on the cab. And it's funny because I just start with the wire. At first I'm like, oh, well, just, I try some odds and ends of different things. What ended up happening was the cheek poker, the wire wheel on the Bondo. And I got a video of it where I'm just making like a 1/4 inch arc, just passing through a 1/4 inch at a time, just peeling it off. And the funny thing was the body was straight underneath it. It's like he was trying to match some line somewhere, but it was in the neighbor's yard. I don't know. And so anyway, wire wheeled all that stuff off. And then it's got all the cancer, cut all the rust out, learned how to weld, did MIG welding. Just if anybody is into YouTube, Fitzy's Fabrications taught me how to weld. Tony Fitzgerald, right? Oh my gosh, I feel bad. Anyway, Fitzy, amazing, phenomenal welder. He does all kinds of custom cars, chop shop, everything. He can build a car from scratch if you give him enough time. He's amazing. Nice. He's up in Canada, so his accent throws you off at first. You're like, what is this guy got an impediment or something? No, he's actually Canadian.
Yeah.
And he's really, really sharp.
Nice.
But yeah, and to be honest, I didn't full disclosure, I'm a terrible welder, so I don't feel bad mentioning it, but I didn't really use a mask. It's like I bought a mask, but Fitzy doesn't use a mask. And I found that when I used a mask, I couldn't see what I was doing. So I'm welding like perfect beads in the middle of nowhere. So what he does, he keeps the gun right in between, what he's welding and his eyes, and he's always in the shadow, and that's the way he does it. And worked out for me. Not recommended,
Yeah.
Read the instructions, follow the safety precautions.
I'm over here. No, I'm kidding.
Yep. But yeah, patched up all the body. There's no Bondo on Clyde.
That's cool, man.
I put a little skim on the dash where the radio had been cut in, and it just you're staring right at it.
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
got to do something then. Yeah.
I've never hit the dash on a rock four-wheeling.
Well, that's a good thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you hit the dash on a rock, that's talent, sir. That's a full send.
Not a bad day.
Yeah.
But anyway, it drives me nuts. Every time you drive something with Bondo on the trail and it flexes and then all the Bondo falls out. So what's the point? Just make it straight,
Like, did your Jeep have sunburn? Why? Because it left half its skin over there,
Right?
Yeah, no, that's one of the things we have to address with the GPW. The guy loved his Bondo. So it is a Bondo cream puff special. But it's not because of the rot. It's more of just the dents. Like the hood, if you underside of the hood, you could definitely tell Grace Jones danced on the hood in high heels. Either that or it was used as a shield for a hailstorm. But the rest of the body seems to be, again, solid, just really beat up. But again, besides a couple bullet holes, it seems to be in a decent, solid shape. Well, I would still, right now, we joined the military heritage page. Autumn has joined that, so we're actually in the process of trying to find out, using the serial number, where it served, where it was, and basically find out more information, without having to go to the FOIA Act. But, I might have to do that. But, again, it's still fascinating because, again, I see pictures of you and Clyde and, I'm sorry, which one was the Jeep, the 54? Clyde Otis is the truck. Otis is the truck.
One was Dudley.
Dudley, yeah. Clyde.
Dudley, the 79-ish, 80-ish, 54 wheels.
Yeah. And then you have Clyde, which is the 54 right now. Yeah. And then Otis is the truck.
Yeah.
I'll get it right.
We got Otis.
It's like...
And honorable mention to Bonnie, who is a 56 CJ5.
Mm-hmm.
That was exactly the same underneath as Clyde.
Okay.
The CJ3B. The engine, transmission, everything was exactly the same on the two vehicles. Well, I picked it up for a pretty good deal from a buddy of mine, buddy of mine at work.
Right.
He'd had this Jeep, and it was funny because when I first got Dudley, then my friend says, "Hey, you should have what I told you I had a Jeep at my house. I'd sell you. You didn't have to spend all that money." And I was like, No. I mean, well, I'll go up there and take a look at it. And so I look at it back then. And, I can see through the floorboard. It's like, what? It's a 4-cylinder what? This thing sucks. There's no way it's going on the trail. I want to climb big rocks and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so at the time I dismissed it. But then I went and bought the 3B a couple years later after I really got into it. And then I realized, oh, yeah, Todd's got that 56 CJ5. I wonder if it's the same. And you pop the hood, and after you've gone through the whole thing with a sandblaster and ate all kinds of sand, then you're real familiar with it. And it's like, yes, that is exactly the right stuff. It's all got the right stuff. So in the event that I need parts, I'm going to buy this and have it on the side for a parts Jeep, right?
Right.
So when I bought Clyde, I did the right thing and didn't tell my wife.
She can't hear you, can she?
Yeah. So it was funny because I had this trailer sitting in the driveway. And I pulled the trailer out of the driveway and I parked Clyde in the driveway. She's in South Dakota visiting her parents. And so I sent her a text and said, "Hey, I got the trailer out of the driveway like you asked me to. We got that's what it was. My dad sold it. It's like, hey, we finally got rid of the trailer. Isn't that great?" And she's like, "Yeah." And so I sent her a picture of Clyde sitting in the driveway. What is that? I was like, "Oh yeah, I meant to ask. I found this really good deal on this 56 CJ3B. And weren't you going to talk to me about this?" Bad move, right?
Right.
Well, when it came time to buy Bonnie, as luck would have it, she was out of town visiting her parents.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I actually called her and said, I know I did this before and I don't want to do it to you again, but it's prime time. I can get it before the snow and whatever. I've got these excuses. I've got money burning a hole in my pocket. Can I go get this thing? Because it's a good deal. She's like, yes, fine. That's fine. At least you called me and talked to me, right?
Right.
So Bonnie's been sitting there. As soon as she gets home and sees it, and we go for a drive because Bonnie was running, all I had to do was throw a battery in. I needed a gas tank. I threw that in there.
Yeah.
As soon as she drove it, she's like, "Oh no, you're not parting this Jeep out. It drives 10 times better than Clyde does."
Bum bum bum.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, that's fine, but Clyde's my project, so that's what I'm going to work on.
Right.
Poor Bonnie sat there in a tent for like 2 years, and I never did anything with her. Yeah. And so finally, this last couple months ago, I went ahead and sold Bonnie to a guy who's wanting to do something with her.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's cool. And he's
give her the proper love.
Yeah. And pretty straight. It had a couple of dents, but that's the thing is with Autumn's GPW. I mean, get real comfortable with the hammer and dolly, because it's actually fun once you start working the metal. I had a lot of fun with hammer and dolly.
The interesting thing is I'm really starting to love old Jeeps, and a friend of mine, Dave Meyer down here, he's got a Willys wagon, 54 Willys wagon. Hope I'm getting it right, but point being is he calls it Daisy, driving Miss Daisy, and it's actually the factory root beer brown paint, and he polished it out and it came out nice. I mean, it's not like Concours showroom, but it's Blockermore. It looks good from Blockermore. And I starting to love those Willys wagons. And I kind of told Autumn the other day, I'm like, I'm kind of thinking, I never really bonded with the LJ. And you car guys, when you bond something. Now, again, the LJ is again, repainted the hood, the cowl. It's got the full metal cloak. It's in really good shape, full bed rug, Mastercraft racing seats, AC works, power steering works. It is new clutch. It is a well thought out and done Jeep, but I never bonded with it. And there's
really?
that dangerous where you can add more money to it and build it more, or you can just say, cut your loss, like an M715 or a Willys wagon would do it. And I'm seeing those prices now. They're not getting any cheaper. And it's like, right. I need to start thinking about, am I going to jump now or wait? And I'm kind of in that, because now I got the old Jeep bug, man. I got the old Jeep. I mean, Gladiator's great for a daily driver, but I got that old Jeep bug, man. That just is eating away at me. Like, I want that old metal. Like I said, getting used to those. It's simpler. It's something I can work on. It's tactile. I can do that, because I look at even the LJ for the most part. I can replace the alternator, and I've done it. But if you ask me to do the spark plugs, I get all anxietied up, because now I got to take the coil packs off and do all this, and I don't want to do that. I just want to pull the spark plug wires. That tactile feeling of an older vehicle, because that's what I grew up with. I'm really starting to think about that, and then hearing you with you have the truck Otis. What year's Otis, by the way? Is it 50?
Yeah, Otis is a 1951 GMC. Let's see. There's a weird number.
In his defense, folks, he didn't know there would be a test. But the point though is it's got those 50 sweeping lines. He's got go ahead.
100-22. Okay, that's the model number. I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, hey, that's great. I got a Jeep. No, but it's interesting, because you see that old metal, that old iron that you can't go out and buy. And I see your post about getting Otis up and running and doing this, parades and all this. I'm like, oh man, that sings to your soul, man. Bringing something back that it was destined for the crusher. I know Kevin and I talk about TJs all the time, but it's like that. There's a difference when it has that old 50s feel. And you look at these, what I call a work of art, and whether it's a Jeep or a Chevy truck or a Ford or a Chrysler or Mopar or whatever, you get that tactile feeling of that's what was a daily driver. That sweeping line, the steel dashboard, because, we die like men. The other idea that, 3 in the tree shifting, that's gone. that will never be reproduced. And I feel this pull in my soul going, come on, man, do it. Just, it's only money. You'll make more. Like, no, I won't.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, no, I get it completely. Because, yeah, I mean, Clyde was going to be the project. It's like, okay, that's the old vehicle, right? And Otis was a funny story because actually kind of a cool, well, I guess it didn't start cool because my friend's uncle passed away.
Right.
But he was going through the estate, and this gentleman, he managed to assemble about a quarter mile of old tractors and vehicles, big, he didn't do anything small, nothing piecemeal. It was, 3-ton pickups, for hauling hay and corn or whatever. And just a quarter mile of it, and tractors and implements, and it's just crazy, And so he's taking videos of it, and he passed by Otis, and Otis was the town where I found it. Actually, Dwayne was the name of the uncle, and I was going to name the truck Dwayne after the uncle, and then Shana's like, no, this truck looks like an Otis, to be honest. Let's say Otis D truck. That's what's Otis Dwayne. The
nice.
Truck,
Yeah.
So anyway. So he just passed by on the video for like a quarter second or less. Just passed by it. I was like, I don't know what that was, but how much does he want for that? He's like, what do you mean? I mean, I could find out what it is. I'm like, I don't care what it is. But of all the things you got on the lot that I saw right there, it was the shortest. So I bet you that's like a normal vehicle. How much does he want for that? Your dad. He said, well, I'll find out. And so I got actually a smoking deal on Otis.
Awesome.
Insider deal,
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, and the family was happy about it because get it on the road and have kind of a namesake. I wish it was a full namesake. That was his first name, but yeah. So that truck had not run. I mean, last time it was plated was 1970, and so yeah, went through the drivetrain, got it running in about 17 days because we picked it up. We got it 16 days before the Labor Day parade, and I had to get it running, and Shayna able to drive it, my wife, in 16 days. And so it was thrashing on it, trying to get, and it did not start as well as Clyde did. I mean, it was a fight, Timing was off. Man, I forgot about Chingadera. We'll have to talk about that one too, but I don't have a problem, folks, I swear. But
his fingers were crossed.
Anyway. Yeah, right. And toes. But yeah, got it going, and to give the listener kind of a visual, Otis, the 51 GMC, it's mostly patina on the top. It's got some green on the sides of the original factory paint. What's cool is when you pop the hood, you can see the original factory paint all over the firewall. So that's the original color. And I think it's got about, based on the oil pressure, and I've learned to watch that, in my old age. But based on the oil pressure, I think that engine genuinely has like 60,000 miles on it. And it's let's see, I want to say it's a flathead inline 6.
Yeah, flat 6 were common in pickup trucks in the 50s.
It's like a 228 is what it is.
Okay.
And it does not fast. It doesn't do anything you would expect anything newer than 1951 to do. It does 55 miles an hour. And that's all in.
Yeah.
Downhill, I got it up to 60, but I popped out of gear to take it easy on the engine,
He's not kidding.
Yeah, no, I'm not. It's legit. And but yeah, I was missing a couple of windows, and the seats were gone. I mean, nothing but springs, so we got those reupholstered, and so I was ready to go for the parade. And yeah, so that was really fun. And but now it's been hauling loads. It's working. When she's buying furniture and stuff for her business, then that's what we take because it's got the longest bed.
Now you said you wanted to be impressive. The carburetor work, you had the carburetor put on, or you used a carburetor and you want to make sure you got the name right. Do you remember the name?
Yes. So I have actually seen the venerable Solex carburetor disparaged on Facebook.
Right.
And I'd like to use this platform to say that I much prefer the Solex carburetor to the stock YF Carter carburetor that comes on the F34 and L134 engines, because I fought and fought and fought on Clyde to try to get that stupid thing to run right. And I rebuilt got a rebuild kit, rebuilt the carburetor. It's not that complicated. You rebuild the carburetor. Fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. Finally, chunked it in the trash, bought a Solex from Kaiser Willys, threw it on, turn and a half out like you expect, fired it up, runs like $1 million. Like your eyes don't water in the tent with all the walls on the tent.
Right.
You know, I mean, you could actually like go ahead and suffocate the proper way with the carbon monoxide as opposed to the fumes, right?
Well, you're not wrong though.
Yeah, but it was funny is in my thrashing, trying to get Otis ready to go in basically a couple of weeks, you know, and working, 40 hours, 50 hours a week in the meantime, I ended up ripping the carburetor off of Clyde, throwing it on the GMC because it fit. And what do you know? Ran like a charm. So I ended up buying another Solex carburetor for Clyde, or two because I broke the first one. Torque wrench, I've heard things.
But I don't know. That's like witchcraft. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Aren't you just supposed to go like? Isn't the cross threading the new Loctite? I mean, you just get there and if you want really tight, you get the 4 foot long breaker bar. You need it just slightly tight. You get the little hand paw one.
Exactly. And when you're in tight quarters, you got to use 2 wrenches that are kind of engaged,
exactly
as a lever.
That's what we all do. We all use the German method, good and tight.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you hear the right elbow pop, then that's the that's the sign.
I can hear Kevin trying to call in right now. No.
We took Kevin's mic away.
Exactly. You say a brief window. You said something about somebody else you had to talk about another vehicle.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the how-to of not how to buy a used vehicle.
Oh, so, I got plenty of those. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So on Facebook, they put the little, hey, you might be interested in this because you buy old broken crap, and their algorithms have figured me out, right?
Of course, yes.
So,
you'll like this. It's rusty.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy puts up an ad for what he called a 1947 CJ3A. And it was quite clearly, I'm sorry. He said it was a 1960 CJ3A, which any aficionado will know is not made. That's apples and oranges. Yeah. So I'm like, that's cool, man. But I think that's being polite. It's actually a CJ5, so you might want to fix your ad. And he's like, oh, no, I'm pretty sure it's a CJ3A. I was like, you know what? But I'll pretend it's a CJ3A if you'd like. If you'll drop your price from $2,000 down to $500, instantly the ad comes down. He says, "You got a deal," and I'm like, "Oh no, what have I done?" But
dear wife,
actually, she was in the house on this one.
Okay,
and so that's why the thing only stuck around so long. So
Fair.
Anyway. I borrow a trailer and we drive down to Hudson about 45 minutes or so. And as I find the house and the guide said, come around back. So I pull up into the alley. As I pull into the alley, I see this full-size Ford 2010-ish pickup with a winch. And he is winching the seized vehicle across the backyard, leaving skid marks with all 4 wheels as he's dragging it along. And I'm like, what have I done? The Jeep was entirely filled up to everything that could hold anything. Like if you blew on it with your mouth and blew a leaf out, then anything below that level, completely full of leaves, twigs, dead squirrels, who knows, mud. And
Jimmy Hoffa's wristwatch.
Exactly, yeah. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, deal's a deal, I guess. I'm really bad at negotiating. But I was like, I don't know. There's got to be something I can do with this thing. It's fine.
Hold on.
Hell, steel price is probably $400, right?
Quick pause. You're good at negotiating. You went from 2,000 to 500. That's a good deal. Let's get hey, come on. Just the tetanus shot alone was worth 500.
Right. Well, I wasn't convinced at that moment that I was very good at negotiating. So I was like, well, a deal's a deal, whatever. So I reached down, and he doesn't know anything about the vehicle. So I reached down, and okay, the transmission's definitely locked up. The shifter doesn't move.
Yeah.
But then I reached down, knocked the transfer case into neutral. Now it rolls. Okay, that's a start.
Yeah.
So
something turns.
Yeah, exactly. So got it winched up on there with all 4 flat tires. Lock it down.
Mm-hmm.
Pay the man. He gives me a title. All right, away we go. I get it home, and no joke, my dad went ahead, vacuumed all the leaves out, cleaned out the cab and everything, so you could actually sit in it and not get lost in the woods. And the timing was 180 out.
Oh.
Yeah, and then
You're not even trying at that point.
Yeah, right. Well, I think it was just, I've done it. I'll be honest. I've set it 180 out and not realized what I was doing. You know, it happens.
Okay, fair.
But so how did it go? I think, the starter went. And so I ended up trading off starters. And turns out on the 134s, you can actually use a FJ or some Toyota starter that's much better. Drill out the holes just a little bit, and you can mount that up on an old 134 engine. So I swapped starters off of Clyde, put the good one onto Clyde, and put the bad one, not the bad, but the not so hot one at Clyde used, right, into Chingadera. And that's became its name instantly, was Chingadera, which you can look it up. But
do we have to have safe search on?
I'm not sure how that would work. I mean, effing thing, whatever.
Moving on.
It's Spanish.
Yeah.
Could be Italian. I don't know. Anyway, so
now we're on a watch list.
So we get, I get the starter swapped, get the carbureting, a little bit more carbureting, and then fix the timing. Darn thing roars to life. It runs 10 times better than Clyde. No joke. I'm out there with a screwdriver and a hammer, beating on the backside of the transmission where the shifters are on these 2 rails. I'm beating on that. Hey, I got first gear. Beat on it some more. Hey, I got reverse. Beat on it some more. Hey, I got second gear. And I'm just doing this number. Pull the top off, clean all the rust out of it, flush it out, put oil back in it. It was awesome. It was like twice as good as all the stuff I had in Clyde. So
okay.
That was the second or third engine that Clyde ended up. I think that's the engine that Clyde's running on right now.
Okay.
Engine and transmission setup. So, and then easy come, easy go. I got my money out of it. And so I kind of passed it on to somebody that could use it. Hopefully he starts mechanicking on it because he's been busy with other things. But I hope to see it on the trail again sometime soon because it's not that far off, really. It's got all the Clyde's old stuff that's not as hot, but whatever.
You made a perfect point there. That was great. You got the carburetor start carbureting. That was brilliant, sir. Kudos to you on that one. That was good. Yes. Oh my goodness, man. Well, I don't know how much more time that you have, but we've been recording for a little bit. I think this is a good start because I have to have you on. You're just a wealth of knowledge. We haven't even gotten to the good bits yet. We just got a few minutes of chatting with you, man. And listeners, this is George. Again, he has been with us since one of the beginnings. He is a legacy listener. He's a great guy. Obviously, he's a hoot. I'm staring at him wearing a Willys hat. The man bleeds Jeep and anything rusty, But with that, you like the show, comment again on the trail podcast at gmail.com. I'm probably going to release this tonight. I'm going to throw the intro music on it, and I'll have it up there tonight. It's going to be a bonus show with George. I hope you all like it, and just email me, let me know. And as always, Kevin and I are going to record last minute for the next show. But other than that, we hope you guys enjoy it. George, do you have any YouTube or social media?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube.
Okay.
Just search up George Stoles.
Okay.
But there's not much there. But there's a little bit there to look at. You can see Otis and various misadventures on the trail and stuff like that. One thing I was going to point out that I'm sure many of the listeners are well aware that you're very concerned about the release schedule of the show. Mm-hmm. I don't know if any of your listeners are aware of what that actually is. It seems to give you a lot of heartburn and
It's the 1st and the 15th. That's it.
That's it.
1st and the 15th. We decided very early to do 2 shows a month because we can easily add. It's hard to take away. And with life and work and balancing and trying to come with show topics, to be honest with you, every week, you can only talk about lift kits so much. You can always talk about V8 swaps so much. Breathe. It's just when you're making a cake or baking a pizza or just need some time to yourself, let it breathe. It's all right, Everyone's like, you missed out on downloads. I don't need to worry about downloads. We don't. We've got a nice steady input because Kevin and I, we like to do the topics where people are keeping their vehicles running, and that's where you are pivotal. I mean, you're like almost the unofficial third member of the show, because a lot of people, no, seriously, you are a wealth of knowledge that people, I think, would love to have. So with that, man, anything else you want to add there, George?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't consider myself anything special. I'm not a mechanic. I'm an electrician.
Hey.
And I've dabbled a lot on the weekends. I drive a lot of old broken stuff, but
nothing makes you a better teacher like doing things wrong. Ask me.
Yeah.
But with that, guys, we'll catch you on the flip side. If you like it, let us know. We'll go from there. Again, George, thank you very much for having me. Or thank you very much for coming on.
Send the hate mail to what email address again?
I have no idea at thisisthetfake1.com.
Okay.
On the Trail Podcast.
Make it easy.
Exactly. On the Trail Podcast at gmail.com. All right, guys. Catch you later, okay? Bye.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
This has been a Bent Axle Media production.